Back in 1979, Reverend Sun Myung Moon gave a sermon that painted this absolutely sweeping vision for the world. So in this explainer, we're going to dive deep and break down the really powerful ideas and metaphors he used to lay out what he saw as the world's biggest problems and the pretty radical solution he proposed.
And it all kicks off with this line. This is our starting point. It paints this picture of America in the late 70s as a place that's just culturally starving, you know? A kind of spiritual vacuum, just waiting for something real to come along and fill it. This sense of crisis is what sets the whole stage for everything else we're about to talk about.
So here's our roadmap for getting through this vision. First, we'll look at the diagnosis, a world of friction. Then, we'll see how we got here, with a plan gone awry. After that, we'll meet the solution, God's new champions, and find out about the price of restoration they have to pay. And it all leads to the final destination, the goal, restored family.
All right, let's jump right in with the diagnosis. Section 1, A World of Friction, is all about the sermon's take on what is fundamentally broken with the world, and it points to two major sources of all this chaos. According to this sermon, the world is caught in a two-front crisis. On one hand, you've got this massive, invisible wall between Eastern and Western cultures. And on the other hand, you have the spiritual freefall happening inside America itself, which is seen as collapsing from within.
Now, to illustrate this deep cultural divide, the sermon uses this, well, it's a very striking and, let's be honest, pretty controversial analogy. The Oriental woman is portrayed as secretive, mysterious, and that her mystery is a great weapon. The American woman, by contrast, is like a machine gun, so open and straightforward that she loses her attraction. Now, this isn't really about gender. It's a metaphor for a cultural clash between what's seen as Eastern subtlety and Western bluntness.
So that brings us to the second crisis, America's internal decay. The sermon paints a pretty bleak picture, right? A society where the foundations, family, church, even a person's own self-worth are just crumbling. And this erosion, it says, creates a spiritual void, leaving a whole generation of young people totally adrift, living like animals.
Okay, so if the world is so broken, how in the world did it get this way?
Well, the sermon doesn't just point fingers. It lays out this really unique historical story to explain the root cause of it all.
This is absolutely fascinating. The sermon maps out this whole alternative history. The idea is God's original plan was for Christianity to start in the East, but the crucifixion completely derailed that plan, sending the faith on a 2,000-year detour to the West. And now, having finally landed in America, it's in the perfect position to come full circle, cross the Pacific, and finish its original mission of uniting the entire world.
So we've got a world in crisis and a history that's gone off the rails. What's the solution? Well, this next part introduces the Unification Church not just as some new religion, but as God's own divinely engineered answer to fix everything.
And the central idea here is something called the heavenly magnet. Just picture this, a force created by God himself, made up of people from all 5 races, with this incredible magnetic pull that just draws in chosen people from every single corner of the globe.
But who exactly is this magnet attracting? You might think it's the powerful or the elite, right? Nope, it's the complete opposite. According to the sermon, God's new champions are the oppressed, the overlooked, the people whose suffering has actually given them a special ability to understand God's own heart.
And why America? Why is this the launch pad for the whole thing? The argument is that the US is basically a mini version of the world, a microcosm where all the races have already come together. This makes it the perfect staging area for God's final global operation.
Okay, so being one of these champions sounds pretty epic, but it's not easy. It comes with a cost. This next section is all about how suffering isn't just a roadblock, it's actually a core part of the journey to restoration.
So you got to ask the question, right? Why is hardship seen as so essential here? Why is it framed as not just necessary, but a good thing? The sermon has a very specific theological answer for that.
And here we get to a really core idea. Persecution isn't a sign you're failing. It's interpreted as a sign you're being blessed. It totally flips the script. In this view, when you face opposition, that's proof you're on the right track. And the harder it is, the bigger the blessing.
And it's explained with this really powerful metaphor. Imagine you start out as a piece of driftwood filled with all kinds of junk and impurities. God then puts you into a furnace, the furnace of hardship. And the intense heat of all those trials just melts and burns away everything that's not pure, until what's left is genuine gold.
But what's this all for? I mean, what's the point of becoming gold? This is where it gets really profound. The ultimate purpose isn't just about saving yourself. It's about liberating God. The teaching is that God's own heart was broken by the fall of Adam and Eve, and so only a person who can endure every single attack imaginable and still hold on to their faith, only they can finally heal that original divine wound.
And all of this, the history, the champions, the suffering, it all leads to one final destination. The ultimate goal of the entire thing, the creation of what the sermon calls the restored family. This is the building block for a whole new world.
So, what exactly is a restored family? Well, it's described as what God intended for humanity from the very beginning. And we're not talking about just any family. This is a family unit that's been forged in the fires of world-level trials, one that's overcome every barrier to build this fortress of love so strong that evil literally can't get in.
And how do you do it? How do you earn that title? It's all about action. You have to prove it. A family has to create an actual track record of loving all people, all nations, especially the ones most different from them. That's how you actually break down those global walls of friction.
And this is a huge takeaway from the whole sermon. The goal isn't just about personal salvation, getting into heaven when you die. It's a tangible collective mission to physically build the kingdom of heaven right here on earth, building it brick by brick, one restored family at a time.
And then the sermon closes by just zooming way out to a cosmic scale. It describes the entire universe as God's jewel box, filled with planets made of ruby and emerald, all just waiting for his restored children. It leaves the audience with this final provocative question, basically reframing this whole difficult earthly struggle as the price of admission to an incredible infinite inheritance.